Thanks for the invite. Obviously, it's an absolutely horrendous situation in Gaza and Israel, and we've all been following events with absolute horror and watching the footage on our television screens night after night. And it does make you despair in terms of the lack of humanity and lack of respect for human rights and international law on all sides, really. So, following the horrible attacks by Hamas and then the carpet bombing of Gaza and indeed the siege that the Israeli armed forces put in place, as members of the Welsh Parliament, we came under a lot of pressure from the general population in Wales, but also the Muslim population, which is significant in cities like Cardiff and Newport that I represent. And indeed, some members of the communities in Wales had relatives in Israel and Gaza who were directly affected by the events. The Welsh Parliament doesn't have responsibility for foreign affairs or defence, of course. Those are matters for the UK Parliament, but we do have responsibility for community cohesion and community welfare in Wales, and there were issues there as a direct result again of the events in the Middle East. So we were looking really at ways in which the Welsh Parliament could make its views known as elected representatives of the people of Wales. And I firstly put down a statement of opinion, which is our mechanism for stating the views of members of the Welsh Parliament. And that deplored the attacks by Hamas and the response of the Israeli government in terms of the siege, the bombing and the civilian casualties, including so many children, and the effect on hospitals and schools and UN relief efforts in the territory. And we then went on to call for an immediate ceasefire, immediate release of hostages, and then for a renewed international commitment, really, to a lasting peace and a two-state solution. We then followed that up with the debate in the Welsh Parliament, which I think was a very good debate myself. It was very emotive, it was very emotionally charged, but I do think all members who contributed spoke very well. It was heartfelt, and indeed people reflected on the heartbreaking events taking place. That was then followed by a vote which was along similar lines to the statement of opinion, and again called for an immediate ceasefire and immediate release of hostages, together with a lasting peace and two-state solution as we look further ahead. So I think the view of the Welsh Parliament, the Senedd, is clear on these matters. And I'd also believe it reflects the wider views of people in Wales, and particularly, our ethnic minority communities in Wales. So, although we don't have a responsibility for foreign affairs and defence, I do believe we have a moral responsibility to speak out on issues that matter to the people of Wales and directly affect them as these issues do. And also to reflect the fact that we're very much a global village now, and what happens in any part of the world inevitably affects every other part of the world. So I hope even in perhaps quite a small way, the Welsh Parliament has done a little bit to reinforce those calls for an immediate ceasefire, an immediate release of hostages, and put our views on the record on behalf of the people of Wales. And personally, I'm very glad that we did take those steps and we have been able to do that.
Thank you very much for that, John. And may I ask you a question initially, and that was about the large number of abstentions in the vote in the Senedd. And I understood that was to do with convention. So could you say something to us about that?
Yes, there is a convention that's on international matters that are not strictly within the responsibilities of the Welsh Parliament and the Welsh Government. Government ministers abstain, and that's been the case for other similar votes in the past. So Welsh Government followed that precedent on this occasion.
And may I ask you a supplementary question? If that convention hadn't existed, or what is your assessment of the support on the front bench in the Welsh Parliament?
To be honest, it's difficult to judge. The First Minister, Mark Drakeford, is on record as calling for humanitarian pauses leading to a ceasefire. And in that respect, his stance has been different to Labour in Scotland, which is in favour of an immediate ceasefire, and also, of course, Sadiq Khan in London and Andy Burnham in Manchester. So there is a difference there, and obviously my own view is different. I'd like to see that immediate ceasefire and that immediate release of hostages.
Thank you very much, John. And I hope the example of the Senedd will reverberate through the Labour Party. So a brilliant piece of work.